say Chinese-made defense radars in the country failed during the operation. What does this say about China's military readiness, implications for Taiwan, and how the U.S. should perceive the CCP? Joining us to unpack all of this is former U.S. Department of Defense Senior Director for China, Taiwan, and Mongolia, Tony Hu. Tony Hu, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Now, the world is still watching after Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela and the capture of Maduro. There's more and more reporting that Chinese-made radars actually failed in Venezuela during that operation. First, what's your reaction to that?
Well, we know for a fact that the Venezuelan air defense was unable to counter U.S. strike. And the reason why they failed could be due to many factors. Of course, one of the reasons might be failure of those Chinese-made air defense radar and missiles. They did not perform as advertised. So we also don't know how well those systems were maintained. Did the Chinese just stole the stuff and not teach them how to repair and maintain the radars? And could also be human factors where the training and proficiency of the operator. Did the Chinese teach them how to properly operate the system? So it could be an entire package problem where they sold the hardware and they didn't really give them the warfighting capability. Without the training and maintenance capability, those hardware is just nice to look at. And there also might be a breakdown between the radar and the missiles. They couldn't complete the kill process where the radar might have seen a target, but they couldn't pass the information to the shooter, the missile. So it could be caused by electronic warfare by the U.S. forces. We do that, and we always use that technique to protect our forces going in. So there could be many factors. Certainly, the Chinese hardware might be one of the primary factors that caused the Venezuelans to not able to defend against the U.S. forces.
Digging into the equipment specifically, though, it seems that China advertised the JY-278 anti-stealth radar systems as capable of spotting and stopping U.S. stealth aircraft, saying it was either on par or even more advanced than Western capabilities. At least in terms of this operation, it looks like that failed, and the world saw that. When it comes to the technology itself, what does this tell you about China's capabilities here?
Yeah, China's claimed that JY-27A was developed by China, but in fact, it is a copy of the Russian Nebo AM radar that was part of the S-400 missile system cell that the Russians sold to China. So it uses a VHF frequency. I don't want to get into the actual details. These frequencies do not have the accuracy of a high-band radar, so it might be able to detect a target far away, but it couldn't tell the actual distance and location. So it's not as capable as the Chinese claim it to be. And but that's expected because culturally, when China and Russia release their weapon performance data, it is usually much better than the actual performance. They just say, hey, we can do all this. The United States usually does the exactly opposite. When we release performance data of our weapon system, usually it's less than the actual performance. So, we keep the actual performance more classified, but tell people, oh, we can only do this for 150 miles, but actually the system might reach out to 200. Where the Chinese and the Russian tend to do the reverse. If the system can do 150 miles, they say, oh, we can do 250 miles. So obviously there could be some of that. And many of the users might be thinking, wow, I have this capability, but actually they don't.
And as you laid out there, a lot of countries use Chinese-made equipment, especially weapons. And given what we saw in Venezuela, could we see countries reconsidering that? Is there a fear of failure when it comes to Chinese-made weapons?
Yes, I think the recent activity is not a good promotion of a Chinese product, and some country will start probably having second thoughts, and they might not go to the U.S., and they probably go more toward European and other third world countries like Brazil and South Africa. Those countries have a very strong defense industries, although Chinese products are always much cheaper. So it's attractive to these third world countries, and some countries, through the Belt and Road Initiative, they will trade their minerals for military weapons, and Chinese accept that. So I think there's going to be some questions, and these countries might ask China to provide further proof of their product's performance rather than just accepting it. So, yeah, I don't. This is not good for the Chinese defense industry. However, it's not a death blow. They will still be purchased just because it's cheaper.
Well, Tony Hu, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, Tiffany. Have a good one.
New areas of global competition, including artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, quantum, hypersonics and long-range drones, space capabilities, directed energy, and biotechnology.
A visiting member of Canada's parliament acknowledged Chinese aggression toward Taiwan Tuesday ahead of Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to China. The Canadian lawmaker pushed for diplomacy while in the Taiwanese capital, Taipei.
We reject the normalization of intimidation, of military coercion, of attempts to rewrite international norms through force. We believe that resilience, economic, institutional, and societal, is built through strong partnerships, also grounded in freedom, in democracy, in the rule of law, and in human rights.
Canada has no official diplomatic ties with Taiwan. However, the relationship between the two countries has deepened as China ramps up military threats against the democratic island. Two lawmakers from Carney's Liberal Party ended a visit to Taiwan early this week, citing advice from the Canadian government. Carney is expected to discuss trade and international security during his trip to China. Coming up, a former U.S. Navy
英国媒体报道呢，中共在去年底以所谓的法律建议为名点名施压欧洲11个国家的政府，引用呢欧洲方面的申根边境法，说呢允许台湾官员进入欧洲的国家，将威胁这些成员国跟中共之间的国际关系。不过呢，英国外交部发言人已经回应强调呢对台湾会一视同仁。那就要请教政治大学国际关系研究中心的资深研究员宋国成教授您怎么看这个中共的法律口水战呢？甚至他还提出说，要求欧洲国家呢要禁止像联合国一样，不让台湾人进入欧洲国家的政府大楼。
我认为我研究了这个国际政治这么多年，我没有听过什么叫法律建议法律建议其实就是对于他国内政干涉的一种政治意见所以中共不要用这种漂亮的名字来包装你丑恶的一个政治的企图这是第一个。第二个，什么不是叫法律口水战这叫奥博啦。我们台湾最懂这句话。什么叫奥博呢？以前甚至还有可能事前来进行这个恐吓现在怎么样？现在变成马后炮恐吓因为这个蔡前总统还有这个萧美琴副总统已经去了很久了嘛现在才来提出抗议，而且根据这个所谓的那个申根边境法来抗议，事实上就是一种马后放炮中共所持的理由是依据这个申根这个边境法里面，其中有一个规定，那就是说不准任何一个与欧洲的国际关系有所伤害的国家进入这个官员进入到欧洲。没有台湾没有去伤害与这个欧洲的这个国际关系，甚至台湾从来没有去伤害国际关系，所以这种说辞，我觉得只是中共单方面所提出来一种政治的霸凌，没有任何法律的依据那么最后我要讲的就是说是，当然有人认为这就是一种所谓的法律战法律也要有法律的法理。还有你的这一个法律的依据所以这种没有法理还有依据的这样的一种政治的一个恐吓，摆明了就是就对台湾的一个政治的打压所以在这种情况下，很多欧洲国家除了一些在市场上依赖于这个中共的一些小国家以外，绝大多数的欧洲国家本身已经不买你的账，也不吃你这一套。所以中共的这个法律战已经我们说是法律的口水战，我认为就是法律的一种没有效果的一种战狼式的一种叫嚣战，我觉得对于欧洲对台湾本身没有任何的影响。
好的，感谢老师。